In this video, I'm going to talk about playing guitar with a producer's mindset. Chances are, even if you're not a music producer or wouldn't necessarily consider yourself a music producer, we are living in the golden era of home recording. It's never been easier to make quality recordings of our own guitar playing, whether it's for personal benefit, just to have fun, or if we are thinking about someday writing songs and putting them out there. Whether we are self-produced guitar players or if we are guitar players looking to improve in general, I'm going to help you unlock different mindsets that a self-produced guitar player or a producer who is also a guitar player will need to have in order to make better recordings and to just get better at the guitar in general. So the first thing we need to pay attention to is the intonation of our guitar. You might know it as action. The action is the distance that the strings sit from the fretboard of the guitar. Now, while to some people it's just as simple as
maybe taking a little bit out of the saddle.
But to experienced guitar players, we know that there is nothing worse than working in the studio with a guitar that has not been professionally set up or intonated. If you already know how to do setups yourself or how to intonate your guitar yourself, then more power to you. But if you've never had your guitar professionally set up, it can be the difference between a great session and a horrible session and having to constantly tune your strings, which, unfortunately, even with an intonated guitar, is sometimes the case. Pay attention to the gauge of strings that you play. Also, maintain a cycle of changing your strings when it's time. Some would argue that changing your strings right before recording isn't good, that you should change them a week or so before and break the strings in a little bit. Other people feel like it's better to change the strings, get them acclimated, and then record right away. Leave a comment about that to let us know what you think. The second thing I'd like to talk about is tuning versus fine-tuning. Most guitar players that I see, whether it's a student in a lesson or a guitar player that I'm working with here in the studio, inexperienced guitar players generally tune like this. Now that's all well and good, however, it doesn't give you a fine-tuning, which is so important for a studio guitar player. Fine-tuning takes a little bit more patience and a little bit more finesse, and believe it or not, it takes significantly less picking and more listening. So the first thing I would do is I would pick the string, and I'm gonna listen and watch my chromatic tuner, which is telling me I'm a little bit flat. And so I'm going to ever so slightly nudge my tuner. And I believe I have my E string where I want it. Then I'm going to go to my A. Same thing. So it's all about picking the string, listening, then making the adjustment. You need to hear the tones for yourself. Spending more time with your studio guitar or guitars of choice will also help you learn the certain behaviors of your guitar.
These tuners are stubborn, these tuners are loose, these tuners are great, okay.
I love how this guitar feels, but these tuners are old and worn.
And you know the certain things your guitars are going to do. So fine tuning will set you up for success, whereas just regular tuning will only get you in the ballpark. The third thing I'd like to talk about is playing with a metronome. And I'm not talking about jamming with a fashionable garden gnome. At this point, you should already know what a metronome is. It's basically a device that keeps consistent beats for us so that we can rhythmically stay on time, whether we're practicing, performing, or recording. Not only should a studio guitar player be comfortable playing along with a metronome, they should be very comfortable recording to a metronome. Whether you are a singer, guitar player, drummer, whatever, playing with a metronome, practicing with a metronome, recording with a metronome will make you a dramatically better player overall. Now let's talk about dynamics. The ability to go from It's so important that we know where to play softer, where to play harder, where to emphasize, where not to emphasize. When it comes to dynamics, oftentimes a player will feel like they have to speed up or slow down, which sometimes works really well depending on the song. Other times, not so much. Pay close attention to playing dynamic, but also following the metronome. Another tool that a studio guitar player needs to have is an attention to detail. That means we're concentrating on making sure that we have left no stone unturned in our playing. If a song ends on an A chord, something was flat or off, instead of just saying, oh, it's good enough, I've got to, go meet my friends for drinks, stop it.
Get some help.
Give it a couple more takes until you get it better than good enough, and it's something that you can be proud of, and the producer, whether it's yourself or another person, can also work with. Another tool that a studio guitar player needs to have is attention to tone. More importantly, the sounds of different guitars or of different picks. Now, while in this video I'm just using an acoustic guitar, I'm playing with a 2mm pick that has sort of a glassy sound. But it works as a really neutral tone for these lesson videos that I make. But let's say I'm in the studio and the song calls for lots of shoegaze style strumming or lots of Americana style strumming. I'll probably want to opt for something thinner, like .73, to get more of a papery sound, especially if it's in a mixture of drums, bass, piano, synth, whatever. Chances are, if you're playing leads and you want them to cut through a mix with rhythmic guitars and or bass, generally, you'll want to play with a heavier gauge pick. If you want a brighter sound, opt for an acrylic pick. When it comes to paying attention to the sounds of different guitars, most studio guitar players that are experienced will tell you a Telecaster has a really nice, chunky, dynamic sound, but they are very noisy. Other guitar players will tell you that the Gibson Les Paul has a very balanced sound. Some guitar players will tell you that a Fender Stratocaster is an amazing studio guitar, but it also sounds like a Fender Stratocaster, depending on the pickups. Lots of things factor into this. Pickups, pedals, the pick that you use, but it all starts with your fingers, and it all starts with your attention to it. You can go from having tone that sounds great to having tone that sounds terrible. I know, I've been one of those guitar players. So pay attention to tone, pay attention to textures, pay attention to timbre, which also means tone color. A studio guitar player should have a basic understanding of frequencies or EQ, knowing that when you're recording something really boomy and bassy, like an E major chord or a power chord, you're not going to need frequencies really below 100, sometimes even 200, depending on the chord, depending on the part. It's up to your ears to hear these things and to understand that some frequencies are just not necessary. Again, leave it up to your ears to decide. The last few things that I will mention is a commitment or dedication to the craft. Sometimes you have to break rules to get good takes. Sometimes you find a chord like this, and sometimes one or two of the notes are out of tune, and you have to tune to those notes correctly with the tuner while you're holding the chord in order to get it to track beautifully and to get a really pristine take. So commitment and dedication to the craft, to detail. Sometimes you have to sit uncomfortably for at least an hour or more just to concentrate, because where your microphones are or where you're sitting is the vibe is right. If you are committed to making great music, even if it's just for yourself, you will feel more confident when you are done with a project that you put all of your effort into and you left no stone unturned. Apply some of these rules, and I believe it will help you to become a better guitar player today. If you are looking to deep dive into guitar and want to improve your playing today, I have a link to a packet in the description of this video that I think will help you out immediately. It's loaded with amazing things that I believe every guitar player should know, whether they're a beginner or whether they've been playing for a while. Check that out. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. I'll see you on the next video.